Hi everyone, and welcome to our 5-minute webinar series where we try to give you valuable information on top trends and insights into security workforce management in about 5 minutes. In our last couple of videos, we tackled pay rates and bill rates for security officers. Today we're going to look at how company size impacts these rates. So before we get into anything, I just want to give a quick background on our analysis, in which we decided to take a look at the shifts across the physical security industry back in December 2019. In doing so, we felt it was a good sample for an analysis. It combined both normal volumes as well as increased volumes to give you a nice snapshot of the highs and lows of a typical month. So what we ended up doing was analyzing roughly about 200 guard firms across 500 divisions, which were all managing about 12,000 unique clients. Now, from that group, we looked at about 83,000 security officers who were working over 2 million shifts. So within that set of data, we were able to review and analyze the pay rate and bill rate data for all different types of areas. It is very important to note that this data has been aggregated, anonymized, and generalized to ensure privacy and security. So nobody was really harmed in the making of this presentation. So today we're going to take a look at some of these rates based on company size. Now, looking at this from a market financial perspective, back in 2019, the 22 companies that were featured on the security letter, which is a well-known kind of letter that outlines all the top companies in security, had a total combined revenue of about $16 billion. And about 60% of the market's total revenue is coming from 5 major security guard firms. So the overwhelming majority of security guard industry revenue is coming from these 5 major companies. So in this sense, the market's very top heavy in terms of revenue share. As a counterpoint, it's important to consider the actual number of US-based guard firms. Robert Perry's recent security paper put the number of US-based guard firms at about 8,000 companies. We recently broke down this list in our own Guarding Outlook report last year, and we saw that 87% of the 8,000 entities in the market is made up of security guard firms that have under 250 employees. So while we see a large portion of the overall revenue coming from those big 5 or even the top 25 guard firms, the majority of companies that are actually out there in the market are actually smaller to mid-sized firms, making it a rich market full of opportunity for small companies to thrive. And again, looking at the sample set we had within our study, it's a fairly good representation of the overall market, which is a nice analog to have for the rest of the industry. Okay, so here's a quick side-by-side on the pay rates and bill rates based on the number of guards within their operation. Just again, to note, this actual representation doesn't represent a profit margin, but just simply 2 points on pay and bill for operations. It's important to look at our previous video on bill rates to understand the difference between bill rate and pay rates and what goes into a bill rate. So we broke it down here and we split them up, and what's interesting to see about the pay rates is how consistent they are across the board. It's actually not very surprising because pay rates are a known, standardized, and even regulated in some ways in the market. So it would stand evident that the rates are pretty consistent across different areas. Now, here's where it gets interesting. While the actual average numbers are only off by a few dollars, it does appear to go up and down with no real consistent dependency on size. And here are a few thoughts here. So first, there are going to be varying indirect costs depending on your business model that are actually unseen, and it causes no two bill rates to really be alike. Another thing is that there's little to no benchmarking on what the right bill rate is, so everyone's going to be bidding a little bit different each time. And the third thing is that the different aspects of a contract will vary. So you have different localities, different types of shifts, different industry sectors, and more things like that will factor into the equation. I think the big takeaway here is simple. There's just more to bill rates than meets the eye, and companies need to do their due diligence when creating a competitive rate. Now, hopefully the data here provides some direction, but ultimately it's one analysis that many companies are going to have to do to get it to where they want it to be. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for more 5-minute videos around this pay rate and bill rate report, but also on other topics within our industry. And I want to thank TrackForce Valiant and SilverTrack for, again, providing support and solutions to this type of data. Again, if you want to download the full report, you can actually do that by clicking on the link in our description below. And as always, if you like this series and you want to get notified when we get more out, click the subscribe button down below. So thanks again, and have a great day.